What emptiness really refers to? Is that really an empty space? What are the basic approach to realize emptiness? How could we turn theoretical understanding of emptiness into experiential approach? Welcome to Clarity Mind. This video is going to represent on aforementioned queries. If you are new to this channel, do subscribe and leave a comment below. Your inspiring comment and advices always make me enthusiastic to create better content. Let's jump into our today's topic. Sometimes, when students of Buddhism first learn about emptiness, shunyata, they get frightened or angry, as though emptiness was something that would suck all the warmth from life, the way a black hole sucks in light. Emptiness sounds a lot like nothingness, which is clearly not what ultimate reality is. Shantideva, the great Indian practitioner and teacher who lived in the 8th century, made it clear in his classic The Way of the Bodhisattva that nothingness is not the meaning of emptiness, nor the intention of teaching it. It's not indeed our object to disprove experiences of sight or sound or knowing. Our aim is here to undermine the cause of sorrow, the thought that such phenomena have true existence. Sometimes people think that emptiness is a Buddhist philosophical concept, but the Buddha did not create emptiness. Even if the Buddha had never appeared in this world, the nature of phenomena would still be emptiness. We teach emptiness to remove the suffering that comes from clinging to fabrications. It is not presented to destroy appearances. What the teachings on emptiness destroy is delusion and the suffering that arises from it. Shantideva goes on to say, whatever is a source of pain and suffering, let that be the object of our fear. But voidness will allay our every sorrow. How could it be for us a thing of dread? What we really need to be afraid of is ignorance and delusion. These are the causes of suffering. Recognizing emptiness is the antidote for suffering. It is what we need to embrace. Emptiness is not easy to realize because it is not an object for the conceptual mind. What does recognizes emptiness? Is prajna, Sanskrit, which translates literally as highest knowing. It is usually rendered as wisdom, insight, or knowledge. Prajna is basic to our makeup, but it is covered over by veils of concept and emotion. We need cultivation to bring it out. There are 3 ways to cultivate prajna: listening to the teachings, contemplating their meaning, and meditating. These 3 form a natural sequence. Approach number 1. Listening. Listening is straightforward. It includes both hearing teachings and studying them. We study such topics as suffering and its cause, the cessation of suffering, the nature of apparent reality, the nature of ultimate reality, and the general workings of samsara and nirvana. The prajna that arises from listening removes our coarsest misunderstandings about reality. Approach number 2. Contemplation. Contemplation takes the understanding that arises from listening and starts to mix it with our personal experience. There are many ways to contemplate. The simplest way is to reflect on what you have studied and ask yourself how it applies to you. Is all your experience tinged with suffering, for example, or not? What does emptiness mean? Is it something you vaguely understand, or is it clear to you that all phenomena are empty? Another way to contemplate is to use questions that arise from your studies to investigate your experience, such as asking yourself, what is the nature of the enemy I'm thinking about? Is it really my friend arising in my mind, or is it a projection? A third way to contemplate is to use logical analysis to clarify your understanding. You can ask yourself such questions as, is this body one thing or many things? It must be one or the other, or else it does not truly exist. When you see the body is made of parts, you understand it is not one thing. And since the parts can also be broken down endlessly, at that point, you can realize that its nature is emptiness. Sometimes, practitioners have doubts about the validity of contemplation. Since many teachings on meditation emphasize non-conceptuality, they feel it isn't kosher to practice with concepts. This is an overly simplistic understanding about how to work with conceptual mind. Genuine freedom from fabrications comes from seeing through the delusion of concepts, not from suppressing them. If we don't use concepts to develop prajna, we will have no way to develop it. Contemplation plays an essential role in transforming Dharma from mere theory into personal experience. Through repeated contemplation, we develop confidence in the meaning of the profound teachings and confidence in our understanding. Gradually, we develop certainty about the meaning of prajna and shunyata. Approach number 3. Meditation. Meditating transforms the intellectual understanding developed by contemplating into realization or direct experience. Intellectual understanding only approximates ultimate reality. The genuine ultimate reality is beyond the intellect. It is inconceivable and inexpressible. We say that ultimate reality is emptiness, for example, but the genuine ultimate is even empty of anything called emptiness. Nagarjuna, the great 2nd century master, whose teachings refuted all extreme views of existence and non-existence, described the characteristics of the ultimate, calling it the precise nature, in the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, unknowable by analogy, peace, not of the fabric of fabrications, non-conceptual, free of distinctions. These are the characteristics of the precise nature. Because it is beyond the reach of the intellect, ultimate reality can only be realized through meditation. There are 2 main aspects to meditation: resting and looking. These are sometimes called cultivating peace and cultivating insight. In the beginning, resting is emphasized because first we need to pacify mind's wildness. There is not much point trying to look around inside a whirlwind. As mind begins to settle, the emphasis shifts to investigating the nature of experience. At this point, we alternate resting with investigating. This is the way to develop prajna through meditating. It is worth mentioning that some people feel they need to practice resting meditation until their minds are completely still before they can move on to developing insight, and others feel that if they settle their minds enough, they will be freed from suffering and disturbances by that alone. Both of these approaches overestimate the role of resting meditation. It is insight that liberates, because it is insight that sees through ignorance and delusion. Let's start to investigate. In apparent reality, such things as outer objects and inner mind, past, present and future, me and mine, self and other, all seem to truly exist. In ultimate reality, there are no such distinctions. To understand, experience, and finally realize ultimate reality, we need to investigate apparent reality thoroughly so we can see that whatever we cling to is empty. Prajna doesn't have just one thing to accomplish. It must accomplish many things. There are countless ways to investigate. To give you a feeling for the process, here is a series of investigations that proceeds from what we discussed before. The emptiness of outer objects. The outer environment seems solid and dependable because we always carry our projections with us, the way a snail carries its shell. While we are deeply habituated and cling tightly to our projections, they're relatively easy to see through. We can begin by investigating what we think of as home. Home appears to be as reliable as the earth, but when we look closely at our experience of home, all we find are glimpses of our front door, cooking smells, the sounds of people's voices and flushing toilets, the feeling of snuggling into bed, the sight of the TV, and perhaps pictures on the wall, and so on. We never find home because home is merely a conception. This is something we should contemplate. To do this, ask yourself, where precisely is this thing called home? Is it in the walls, floors, and ceilings? If you think that is where it is, investigate each of them in turn to see whether they are anything other than collections of glimpses where various geographical reference points are located: Asia, Canada, Kansas, San Francisco. With your mind's eye, see if you can find them. Are they in the east, west, north, or south? Did you take into consideration the curvature of the earth? How far away are they? Look at your experience of each reference point in turn. Is Asia anything more than the memory of a shape on a map? Can you ever find a whole city, or is San Francisco made up of lots of different glimpses the way home is? By contemplating in this way, you will understand that the planet and its geography are also projections. All outer objects can be investigated in this way, and you will find that all are emptiness. Outer objects still appear, but they have no essence. Next, moving into more intimate territory, we should investigate the object of our self-clinging. The only thing we cling to more tenaciously than the external world is ego, the self. The self is our most precious possession, yet we really have no idea what it actually is. We think I and mine all the time, but what exactly are we referring to? If pressed, most people would say that it is their body and mind, although some would say it is something separate and more abstract, like a spirit or soul. We need to deconstruct the actual experiences that seem to be the self. We see glimpses of hands and feet, clothing and reflections. We experience feelings, emotions, and other perceptions. We see reflections in mirrors, feel pleasant and painful sensations, get headaches and stub our toes. We think a lot, get sleepy, and sometimes feel uncomfortable. None of these is the self, and when we investigate, we can't find anything else that holds all of these experiences together. You may protest, but all these things are part of me. If so, then ask yourself, what is it that experiences all these things? Is it something separate from the experiences, like a soul or spirit? Can you find such an entity? Are thoughts the experiencer? If you think that thoughts experience things, then investigate what produces the thoughts. Can you find a thinker as well as a thought? Perhaps the experiences experience themselves. Is that how it is? Look for the doer in the same way you looked for the experiencer. When you think, I'm going to walk the dog, will the thought do the walking or the one who thinks? If it is the latter, then they must be two separate things, and you should be able to identify both of them. For whatever action you experience, try to find the actor. Is the doer anything more than an assumption? This is a difficult contemplation to do, so don't rush or push too hard. We have a tremendous investment in the existence of ego, and there is incredible resistance to exposing this illusion. It is easy to dismiss such investigation simply as mind games or wordplay. It's all semantics. But the Buddhist tradition of investigation is not based on playing games. The proof of the power of investigation has always been the result, loosening the grip of ego. Sensing this possibility, ego is amazingly resourceful at fending off investigation. All sorts of emotions, distractions, and confusion will come up to ward it off. Investigate repeatedly, and you will gradually see that the self is also emptiness. It too has no base or root. At some point, you might conclude that there is no self, but there must be a consciousness that is the experiencer of all and the doer of all. If you arrive there, this is what you need to investigate next. The subjective aspect of experience is undeniable, but does this prove that a thing truly exists that is the experiencer? There are many types of consciousness: visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, smell consciousness, taste consciousness, tactile consciousness, mental consciousness, and self-awareness, to name the main ones. Is there a basis or unifying entity for all of these? Each of these consciousnesses is always conscious of something. Can you find the root of mind? Investigating the root of mind is an extremely subtle investigation. You might reflect on it from time to see if it illuminates itself. You could also refresh yourself by studying more, receiving teachings, and meditating. This gives contemplation more power to work on you. Because there are two ways of seeing everything, and we are deeply habituated to only seeing apparent reality. For realization of ultimate reality to develop, everything must be seen anew. Popular literature holds out the hope that this transformation can occur like a flash of lightning, but I am afraid this is wishful thinking. Understanding, experience, and realization develop gradually through lots of listening, contemplating, and meditating. Meeting ultimate reality is more like exploring a new continent than a cosmic revelation. But the good news is that the journey of exploration itself is invigorating and endlessly rewarding. In this way, we can understand the general concept of emptiness and approach that we need to make on. There is no distinction made by nature to everyone. A person suffers from disease will not recover until he couldn't take medication by his own. In the same way, if we are not practicing right path by our own, this is the dream we are having fruition without plantation of seed. If we are serious on learning and practicing, there is a great achievement waiting to us. Thanks for watching my video. Keep supporting. Stay tuned till next video. Have a great day.